veteran UFO investigator Ray Fowler is contacted by a man with an incredible story to tell. His name is Arthur Stansel. In a sworn affidavit, Stansel states that in the early 1950s, he was an Air Force engineer designing landing gear and studying the effects of nuclear blasts on buildings. But on May 21st, 1953, he was sent on an assignment unlike any before. Stansel found himself on a military plane bound for Phoenix with 15 other specialists. Their task was yet to be revealed. Arriving in Phoenix, the team was ushered aboard a school bus with blacked-out windows. Their destination was to remain a secret permanently. En route, they were given a briefing by a ranking officer who told them a top-secret Air Force aircraft had crashed and that they were to conduct a forensic investigation of the site. Stansel's task was to determine the velocity and angle of descent at the time of impact. 4 hours later, they arrived at their destination that the engineer estimated to be somewhere near Kingman, Arizona. The mystery only deepened when Stansel first laid eyes on the craft. It was disc-shaped, some 30 feet in diameter, with a convex top and bottom. During his investigation, the engineer noticed a tent nearby with a military policeman standing guard. Inside, he saw the body of a humanoid creature in a silver suit. Its skin was dark brown, and on its head was a metallic skull cap. Finishing their investigation, Stansel and the other specialists were quickly ushered from the site. They were ordered to say nothing of the incident. It was the last Arthur Stansel ever saw of the Kingman creature. Did the United States government recover alien remains? And if so, why is this information being kept from the public? The United States government has aggressively pursued the recovery of alien remains from UFO crash sites, both at home and abroad, under an intense veil of secrecy. It's an accusation Washington has consistently denied, but a recently released document may blow the lid off this conspiracy once and for all. Quantico, Virginia, April 2011. The FBI's website is flooded by traffic after the release of a secret memo addressed to former FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover. Guy Hottle was a former special agent in charge of the FBI's Washington field office. In a memo dated March 22, 1950, he records an eyewitness account of a 1947 incident that has since become a milestone in human history. The recovery of flying saucers crashed in the deserts of New Mexico. Hotto states they were described as being circular in shape, with raised centers, approximately 50 feet in diameter. Each one was occupied by 3 bodies of human shape, but only 3 feet tall, dressed in metallic cloth of a very fine texture. The release of the memo sends shockwaves throughout the worldwide UFO community. It finally confirms what independent investigators have long suspected, that the U.S. government has proof that extraterrestrials exist, but has deliberately kept it hidden from the world. But one burning question remained. What incident was Hottle referring to? Was it the infamous Roswell crash? Or was it another, lesser-known incident? 1947 saw an intense wave of UFO activity across the New Mexico desert. The plains of San Agustin, New Mexico, summer 1947. A retired rancher is driving along a remote country road when he sees what appears to be a child. Fearing for the child's safety, he pulls over. But as the rancher approaches, he sees it bears no resemblance to any youngster he has ever seen. It has unusually large eyes, but no ears. Its hands show 4 long fingers, but no thumbs, and is wearing a strange gray coverall. Seeing that it appears frightened and confused, the rancher helps the strange figure into his truck and takes it home. Returning home, he and his wife offer their guest food and water, but it refuses and seems content to remain silent in its chair. The couple contacts the county sheriff's department, who make detailed notes of the rancher's story. They agree to send a deputy the following day, but when the couple rises in the morning, their strange guest has disappeared. The incident would seem destined to become a footnote in local folklore, were it not for another incident that happened just days before. Barney Barnett, an official with the U.S. Soil Conservation Service, is working on the plains when he discovers a strange disc, some 30 feet in diameter, only a few miles from where the rancher would soon discover his strange child. Barnett claims to have discovered at least 3 strange-looking bodies among the wreckage. They look like children with large heads and gray coveralls, but none appear to be alive. Shortly after Barnett's discovery, an Army detachment arrives and cordons off the scene. Barnett watches as they quickly load the disc and the bodies onto trucks. They disappear, leaving no clue as to where the bodies were being taken. But many experts believe they now know what happened.
The National Security Establishment set up high-powered scientific teams to study these technologies, but because the technologies were so far advanced of human engineering, our scientific principles at the time, there was great difficulty in understanding these technologies and, more importantly, reverse engineering them for possible weapons application.
But alien technology is just one part of the conspiracy equation. Important questions remain. What happened to the bodies? Where were they taken? And what was their ultimate fate? Roswell, New Mexico, July 2nd, 1947. Multiple witnesses report a UFO falling from the night sky in the desert outside Roswell, New Mexico. The Army dispatches a team to the crash site, but nothing could have prepared them for what they would find.
There was a problem that they have yet to address even over 6 decades later. And there were witnesses, one of which came out and said that there were bodies that were seen at Roswell Army Airfield. So you have to ask, if it really was a weather balloon, which is unmanned, that had crashed, where did the bodies come from?
Over time, however, many witnesses will claim they attempted to access the crash site that night, only to be turned back by soldiers who threatened them with physical harm if they told anyone what they saw. The Army clearly had something to hide. According to some sources inside the military, the wreckage and alien bodies were first transported to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio before finding a permanent home deep in the Nevada desert inside the impenetrable confines of Area 51. But others tell a very different story. They claim that one or more of the bodies was transported in secret to another location for history's first alien autopsy. Washington, D.C., the Walter Reed Army Medical Center. It's here in the nation's capital where at least one of the Roswell aliens is rumored to have been brought for post-mortem examination by the nation's top scientists. The procedure allegedly produced a series of stunning revelations about alien physiology, starting with the creature's abdomen.
It had no digestive system, it had a respiratory system, but it had no stomach, no alimentary canal, nothing.
These features could explain the behavior of the San Augustine creature, suggesting that it and the Roswell aliens are of the same species. The intrigue continues with the removal of the creature's eyes.
When they autopsied the aliens at Walter Reed, one of the things that the medical examiners discovered was that that black coating over the eye wasn't part of the eye, it was a lens. When they removed the lens, they could see in images in the dark. The lens was a light collecting device. It was night vision.
But the most shocking of all is the creature's brain, one radically different from our own. Instead of two hemispheres, the alien brain is divided into four. Investigators observing the procedure take careful note of their position. They have seen this pattern before.
So the alien's hands were on a panel, and we noticed, because in the crash wreckage, you could see that there were handprints on the panels where the aliens would put their hands. So somehow their designs from their brain made their way from the headpiece into the panels that was connected to the ship.
The investigators now believe that the Roswell extraterrestrial controlled their spacecraft through direct mental interface. But this isn't the last connection investigators will make between alien and machine. Linda Moulton Howe is an investigative journalist and ufologist who has spent decades collecting evidence surrounding alien autopsies dating back to Roswell. She presented her findings to the 2013 Citizens Hearing on UFOs in Washington, D.C.
In my work, I think one of the most interesting revelations that came to me was, for the first time actually, only about the early 1990s, I began to hear through leads that in some of the early autopsies, they weren't even cutting into what we would consider to be tissue. It was some sort of a fabric that was either covering tissue, but it was a fabric, and it was very difficult for the scalpels to go through.
The artificial nature of alien bodies has led Howe and a growing number of other experts to believe that many of the extraterrestrials we encounter are not individual creatures, but rather a kind of manufactured clone.
Phil Corso said that there was an autopsy of an alien at Walter E. Army Hospital in 1947, and the autopsy showed that the gray was an android. It was simply an android, a programmed android that had a specific algorithmic function. It was there to surveil, to record, to take whatever information it could, even to abduct human beings, and report to those who controlled it.
Could the aliens we encounter actually be clones? And if they are, who created them? Are they under the control of a single immensely powerful intelligence?